Hello, everyone. We are back to Behind the Sale, our podcast series, which basically talks about how you can crack it in sales, but not also understand in terms of how people in sales should actually be selling. And we are here today with Ralph Azar, who is a sales trainer and someone I have really, really loved connecting. I think the two or three times that I've connected with Ralph has been one of those really fun to talk to. And I'm sure there's going to be a very fun podcast, something we have been waiting for. So, Ralph, over to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much, Arati. It's always a pleasure to have these types of conversations. And it's funny you should mention humor because everybody, when it comes to business, they try to avoid the F word and the F word being funny. And it's actually not bad. I mean, you're not a comedian, right? But people remember those who make them feel good. People remember those who make them laugh. And when you're selling, it's all about connecting with people and it's all about creating that rapport, and people buy with feeling and then they rationalize with all the details that come after. So we'll get into that in a bit as well. So thank you so much for reaching out, and it's a pleasure to be here.
I think people in sales end up being very serious with their job, and sales requires that little bit of humor. I think that's something we are going to learn from you.
So let's just, if you can't have fun while doing your job, I think you should find another job. It's that simple.
Amazing. Or I think there are a lot of them already who know you, who have been really in love with the way you train them, the way you put through all the courses. The one stories that I have heard on my calls. I think if you can give an understanding of how did your sales journey start? Like, was it like you got out of college and immediately joined sales? So how exactly was that journey like? How did it start for you?
Well, my journey initially began with computer science in university, and to be honest, I was a crap programmer. I could never program to save my life. I wanted to go into business. I wanted to go into marketing, and my parents were like, "Okay, you go study computer science, and then you work with your brothers." So I went and I studied computer science, and that was the biggest disappointment of their life. I finished my college, I did my mandatory army service, and then did some technical work, and then I ended up in a sales position, and I had no idea what I was doing in sales. And because they couldn't find another job for me, they put me in sales. And nobody wanted the education product. So I was stuck with the education product. So give it to the new guy. If it fails, they can just fire me. No harm done. Funny enough, universities and education came natural to me, and I started learning more and more about sales and learning more and more about people. And then one thing clicked for me. It's helped them understand the what's in it for me, and that was back in 2005. So that was when I understood that if people understand what's in it for me, for them, they would move mountains to get the sale. They would start selling you on selling them. So once you find that silver bullet, that niche that helps you deliver the right message to them, deliver the right value to them, the deal is already done. And then all of the training and all of the time that passed afterwards was pretty much perfecting that pitch, trying to understand more about people, using active listening. And then as experience grows, and as I got older, I understood that I didn't need to be that serious all the time. I didn't need to have the paper and pen all the time. I could make jokes about something. And if it's not about something, I could make jokes about myself. It's to make those references. It's fine to make the conversation a little bit personal, because at the end of the day, people buy from people.
I remember you mentioned to me on one of our calls that sales training, in terms of what it used to be pre-COVID to the one that's like happening right now online, it's quite different. Like how you guys had to be flown off to the US to get your sales training. So do you think it makes sense to have like a training back there going all the way to the US, or does it make more sense to have the training online like how people generally do today?
Well, it's definitely fun to travel, because when you travel, you you will have more war stories, right? You will have more stories to tell about. I mean, I can, from the amount of travel that I did in my career, I can write books about some silly stuff that happened with me in the airports. Some stuff where the plane landed and it blew a tire. So, I mean, have you ever been on a plane with a flat tire? I have in Muscat. I mean, it's always fun to travel, to have these stories that you can tell when you're opening up presentations or speaking events. But when Corona hit, people understood that it's okay to sit behind the computer and learn. Same as people understood that it's okay to have meetings like this. Because before that, you don't think of me highly enough to come see me. You want to see me over a screen. That was the message that we got from our customers. So, am I not important enough for you to get on a plane and fly all the way from Dubai to Jeddah to come and see me, or to Doha, or to wherever it was? So people understood that it's okay to do things in an online way. But right now, what people are doing, or most companies are doing, is they're having their trainings in a hybrid way. So there are some things that are self-paced you can take. There are some things that can be done online, but there are some things that require human interaction, and that's where you need the human interaction. So one of the courses that I give is 24 hours. I give 18 of those online, and I give 6 of those in person, because when you're taking a coffee break, you're out, you're filling your coffee, you fill coffee for somebody else, right? You have a conversation, you learn about them, they learn about you, you talk a little bit, you deviate from sales, you finish the day, you go out, have dinner, go have a few drinks, well, whatever it is, and come back. That's when you get to know a person. And once they get to know you back, in the next training session, they're going to give you more. So to them, you're more than a face on a screen. And that's what this personal interaction does in terms of the training.
I remember that when you were taking up the sales trainings, you had a very different approach to how you did your sales trainings.
Yeah.
The online ones, like you said, it's like literally face to face. So, what exactly was that different approach that you took, which currently I don't think a lot of them do?
So when we shifted to going online, right? There are some gestures that you can make where you'd have the person feel that you're in the same room. Okay. So right now I'm actually looking at your video, but if I look at my camera, you'd feel that I'm looking into your eyes. I'm just looking, basically straight at you. But it's human nature to move our eyes and see the person that we're talking to. So my camera is far enough that you couldn't tell the difference unless you really focus, right? But for example, if you're typing and you're looking at the keyboard, so my eyes are pointing down now, right? And you couldn't tell if I'm listening to you or if I'm having a chat on WhatsApp on a separate screen. That's all, right? But if I have a paper and a pen and I'm glancing back and forth to the screen and I'm writing, that way you'd know it's like, okay, this dude's listening. And that's one of the things I focus on immensely when we're doing the training.
That's amazing. How is it like when you do like the in-person training? What about the part, say for example, you're taking a training on a cold call for that matter. Uh, is that something that you would prefer to have like online, or do you think
Well,
like a quality training has to be like
yeah,
this?
yes. The first thing I tell these people, especially on cold call training, we're gonna laugh. We're gonna make fun of each other. So, we're gonna be annoying. So we practice all the usual openers. Hi, I'm Ralph. I'm calling you regarding that. And I would say, you know what? Don't do that. Don't do that. Why are you calling them? What's that gonna help them with? And I always tell them, don't make claims that are stupid, right? There are sales trainers that would go out there and they say, if you follow my system, you will 10x your sales, or you will 20x your sales, or it's like, this is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard, right? Do you understand which market? Do you understand the market they're in? Do you understand the type of product they're in? Do they need to 10x? Do they have the capacity to 10x? Do they have the desire to 10x?
Is that the
Right?
same market also that you
Yeah.
said to that has
So
that potential also to 10x?
exactly. So also when we deliver a cold call training, normally that happens in person. So I always have my buddies on the other end. So I would ask a few people, listen, I'm gonna do a cold call training. So I expect a few calls from the people that I'm training, and I want you to give them a hard time. Just give them a hard time. Some of them be blunt, some of them be obnoxious, some of them be stupid. I just want to see how these people would react. And then normally when one of the trainees is doing a cold call, the other ones have their phones on them, and they're recording what happens, and we try to keep the speaker on so that we would have those moments. So sometimes we would have people tell them that we don't have time, go away. And sometimes I'd have people tell them, I got time, talk to me. And in either way, the rookies would be like, what do I do now? And then you're looking, it's like, what do I do now? I don't know, you figure it out, right? And I would never tell the rookies that you're calling my friends.
So
I would at the end of the training.
So you suggest that when anyone probably takes a training for, say, a cold call, it's better to do it in person because it's much more, you are like on the ground training, not literally word to word that this is exactly what you're supposed to talk, but it's
Yeah.
more about like how you're learning by yourself to understand what your style is to sell better.
So it's the trial by fire. Okay. So if I'm training you on cold calling, okay, we're gonna go into role play. So I'm gonna say, okay, now you have the role of the salesperson. I'm gonna be the role of the whatever. It's just so lame. It's lame, you know? When you're the trainer playing a role, or when you're another trainee playing a role, it is just lame. You want somebody from the outside and putting them in the proper scenario. So this is experiential learning at its highest, right? And I don't believe in scripts. After, crashing and burning with scripts myself, I don't believe in scripts anymore. You understand what it is that you're doing, understand what it is that you're trying to sell, and talk to people like human beings. Don't talk to people like you're a machine. Well, that's why I want it to be in person, because I'd be sitting right next to the salesperson while they're making the call. They're making the call to a real person on the other side, and somebody who doesn't know what the script is. Because if it's somebody that knows what the script is, I would have salespeople from a company calling their finance department, or calling their HR department, or calling the engineering department. People that they don't know, especially in large companies, a lot of people don't know each other, right? So I would have them call like these random people, and then see what their reaction is. And it's always helpful to make the mistakes when you're in a safe environment than when you go out and talk to actual customers.
The cultural concept is something which has stuck by for me when we were planning on this podcast, where I think what people miss out is how they don't understand that different cultures work in different ways, and different products, when you propose it to a particular market, is not going to be the same way you do it for your home market, or say, for example, any other market that you have been specializing in selling. So, say, for example, given that I'm based in India now, and I can easily sell to the Indian market because in a way I kind of know how the market is or how the people are in terms of in response to a product like that. But when it comes to me selling the same thing to a UK market, or probably a US market, or even say the Middle East market, is going to be different. I can't have the same pitch saying that, you know what, I got this product, why don't you try it out? It has to be more specific or toned in a way that is different for this particular market that I'm selling to. So have you had that kind of a concept that, you need to know how to sell to different markets?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So goes back to people buy from people, right? So understanding the culture and being sensitive and observant to people's cultures is key, because we hold that very, very dearly, be it our customs, be it our traditions, be it our religions, be it, and this part of the world, these things are really, really held in close regard. There are some kind of jokes that you can get away with in Dubai, you won't get away with in Sharjah, for example. You can get away with in the UAE in general. You won't get away with in Saudi. In Lebanon, you can basically get away with everything. So, for example, from what I've learned is that selling in the United Arab Emirates is different than selling in Saudi. It's different than selling in Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and so on. Even goes down within the same country. Riyadh is different than Jeddah, different than the eastern province, and it's definitely different than the rural areas. And it comes down to the nature of the place. I once made a joke again in Riyadh, which I shouldn't have, but I was young and inexperienced. So I was showing them the finance button in the product called Banner, and it had the dollar signs on like two lines and an S. And I went and I said, this is a piggy bank. It's like a piggy bank. And saying the word pig in Riyadh back in 2005 was,
It's a big disaster.
maybe now you can get away with it, but back in 2005, and I was like, yeah, it's the finance system, it's for the stingy people, the piggy bank. And I thought I was funny. I mean, it was funny in other places. When I said it in Lebanon, they laughed. When I said it in Jordan, I mean, even the Jordanians laughed at it. The Jordanians don't laugh at anything, right? So it's in Riyadh, it was a disaster. You see, which reminds me, people from Amman, Jordan, they also live in a place that is landlocked. It is hot. It is dry. They're to a certain extent similar to people in Riyadh. That hard mentality, right? So people in other places are more amenable to jokes, etc. In Dubai, for example, you can get away with inviting an executive over for a drink. In Sharjah, you cannot, and you're in the same country. So, people value Ramadan. So if you invite them to an iftar, if you observe the time they're working, you send them a nice greeting, you ask about them, etc. They value some of these things very, very highly. They value the fact that you don't dump a lot of work on them during those periods. People in Saudi Arabia prefer WhatsApp to email. People in UAE prefer email to anything. If you want to vent in Saudi, you go on X, or back in the day, Twitter. LinkedIn is the social media of choice in the UAE. I mean, it's just understanding those little things, knowing where to find these people, knowing how to communicate with them in an easier sort of way, kind of makes all the difference when you're trying to sell them.
So, say for example, if I need to sell like a SaaS product to someone who's probably in Riyadh as compared to someone who's in Jordan or someone who's in UAE, what's exactly the perception of them? And what exactly is a mode that is like much better to propose that idea that, we want to sell this product to you? How would you go to them? What's the approach that you would actually take?
People in different places agree things differently. So remember one thing: Riyadh has been for so many years a place where they had the gender segregation. So boys go to school on one campus, girls go to school on another. Starbucks had a section for men and a section for families and women. Restaurants, the same. Malls, women were not allowed to walk if they weren't completely veiled, maybe not niqab, not covering their faces, but they had to be veiled. So if a man going into a shop sees 4 or 5 women in there, he would wait for them to leave, and then he would go. So so uh, so remember that they just came out of that maybe a year or so, like 2 years ago. So you need to be aware of how that has affected their mindset. So their mindset is closed community, protect your data, protect everything, make sure everything is behind lock and key, etc., etc. Go to places like Bahrain, for example. Bahrain has been more of an open community. They had many more expats. Drinking is legal in Bahrain, so on, so on. So different community altogether. So the people are different. They're more amenable to telling them, okay, your data is going to be stored somewhere else, but it's safe. Don't worry about it. Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? Right. So they have this more open society than. Whereas if you go to a place like, these are some of the nuances that you need to be aware of when approaching a conversation.
And how is it in like Dubai if I have to like sell a SaaS product in Dubai then?
So Dubai, it's easier because Dubai is more metropolitan. Dubai is a true melting pot. About 200 nationalities live there. So you get a little bit of everything. Back when I worked at McGraw-Hill, we had 4 or 5 different nationalities in the office at any given point in time. Same with Blackboard, same with Ellucian before that. I mean, you had the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Americans, the Canadians, the Brits, the Lebanese, the Jordanians, the Palestinians, and then you had the other sets of Arabs that think they're locals, but they're not, but they've been in the country for such a long time. So they even dressed like the locals. So and I mean, you have at least 6 or 7, 8 different nationalities in Dubai. So you're more flexible when it comes to cultural understanding and things that are accepted. Sometimes people don't accept things, but because every other colleague does, they fall under peer pressure and they just accept them. It's true. I mean, it is true. In Saudi, there isn't that big of a cultural mix as much as the United Arab Emirates. Now
Right.
it's opening up more, actually.
So understanding how each of these places utilize tech or how they perceive tech, what do you think it is with AI? Like, say for example, in Riyadh, are they even open to using an AI tool or an AI specific product, or do they have like restrictions to using an AI specific product?
No, actually, Saudi and the UAE were among the first countries who actually established AI policies. So most people, the first thing when you tell them about, listen, there's this tool that can tell you anything. The first thing is, what the hell does it know about me? Okay, so that's human nature. So when I first saw that, and it's human nature to do that. People, and it's a proven statistic, by the way, that people search themselves first on anything. People in Saudi started using it for mundane stuff that would not reveal information about them. So cooking recipes, driving directions, how to install something. It wasn't write me an email. It wasn't. But then as it started evolving, and it started working properly in Arabic, because remember, Saudi requires more Arabic than other parts of the region. They still use the Arabic language as the only official form of communication. So they started using those on mundane things that would not relate back to them. And then as they moved forward, they started increasingly using AI. And when the government put the policy, now adoption or AI usage rates between Saudi and the UAE is the highest in the region by far. So it even surpassed Egypt.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm not talking about the number of searches that happen on ChatGPT. I'm talking about the depth of work that has been on AI. So in generating content and analyzing data and creating presentations and reviewing documents and generating legal agreements, etc. I mean, real actual work when it comes to AI. Yeah.
What do you think then salespeople should do? Like, do you think it like makes sense that they like really use AI? Or from at least what I have known, people only use AI to scrape profiles, write some cold emails, make a couple of cold calls. So, do
Yeah.
you think like are they, even if they use it, like is it by any one is I think the problem everyone has is they're scared to lose their jobs. Uh, it's more about will AI take up my job? Second is how do they use it, even if they have to use it?
Yeah. I'm one of those people who advocate using AI like like it's gonna run out on you. Okay. So use it as much as you can, but use it in the right way. So I've had this question from people that I've trained: will AI ever replace me? And I had that once from a teacher, and that teacher was genuinely worried about losing his job. And my answer was simple: the blender never replaces the chef, ever. But the chef will be replaced by another chef that can use a blender. So AI is a tool. AI is a very, very powerful tool. And stop thinking about it as a replacement or even as a tool, and start considering AI as your partner. You can use AI to brainstorm ideas. So you can tell the LLM that you're working with, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever. And you can say, okay, you are a so and so. I want to do some brainstorming about so and so topic. And you start throwing ideas, and they start throwing ideas back. Number two, you can use AI to do your research. So I would like to know more about this, ABC company, their market positioning, their marketing spend, yada, 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 whatever information you can find. And it's very helpful to tell the AI component or the AI platform where to look. So I tell people, use AI to help you have a conversation. So whatever information you can find about a person, it would help you crack open a conversation. I'll give you a very quick example that actually predates AI. Okay, this was back in 2012, maybe, or 13. I was with my boss at an institution in Saudi Arabia called Institute of Banking. They're now called Financial Academy. The boss, so the general manager of that organization at the time, was a gentleman who studied in Kansas, in the University of Kansas. Now, I did our research before I went there: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, anything I could really find, and I made a cheat sheet for my boss so that we would have a proper conversation with that guy. So we were talking about the system. We told them about what we had, etc. And then, when you have that moment of awkward silence. And we had that moment of awkward silence, and my boss noticed the GM, glancing at his watch, and then he threw it in there. So it's like, how did you get to Kansas? And the guy went like this. He goes, how did you know about Kansas? And he goes, well, this guy does his research. And the conversation rejuvenated. It was just easier to move forward in the things. Now, fast forward to the age of AI. The more information that you have about the person that you're going to meet with helps you better create a persona, helps you better create a value proposition, and helps you better articulate that value proposition in a way where it removes all the legwork from you, focuses you on the actual human interaction. And then you can use also AI to create proposals, to create presentations, to generate nice graphics. I mean, these are some of the things that I train people on, create action plans and so on, so on. You can actually snap a picture of this. All you'd need to do is your handwriting to be a little bit readable, snap it, throw it into ChatGPT, convert it to text, summarize it, and convert it into a minutes of meeting. And it's done for you. All you need to do is review it. So these are some of the things that we would like always to advocate.
So I think the example that you gave, right, where how your boss was able to talk to the customer about how the travel was from Kansas City, that's more of your people buy from people concept, which you have spoken about. What do you think about how things are going to be going forward, where it's going to be more about people buying from an AI agent rather than people buying from people?
Look, people can buy from an AI agent maybe simple stuff. You'll buy a mug, you'll buy a bottle, you'll buy a computer. You're not going to buy a multi-million-dollar system or a few hundred, a software that costs 50, 60, 70, 100, 200, $500,000. You're not going to buy. You want to find a person, and you're going to have to look that person in the eye, and then you're going to have to make your assessment. Maybe AI will replace us for little things, but we were never needed for those things in the first place. Where it counts, AI will never replace. I don't see it. We always use the AI to get the data. And that's something that I did when I trained the doctors. Use AI for your research, use AI for your cases, analysis, prognosis, suggestions. But the final decision is yours.
That's right. Like with humans, like you said, buying a car,
Because
you
we need to the decision. If we don't humanize the decision, then what's the point? When you buy a car, exactly, you have to like the car. You have to feel the car, right? You have to,
I think the AI modules are just going to help you understand the different options available. Like when you need to like experience it, when you go to the store, you really want that experience. You go there for the experience.
we're just a bunch of, we're just a bunch of emotions walking on the street. That's really what comes down to it. And then people will always buy from people. You can use AI to simplify tasks for you, answer your emails, book your appointments, but you're going to have to show up to that appointment. You're going to have the conversation.
So I think towards the end, it's more about what exactly should listeners be ready to take away. I don't believe in learning sales from out of a book. It's more about the experience. What exactly do you think they should be doing in today's day and taking away in terms of the lessons that they would have got from this podcast?
So if we allude to books, there's one book that actually two books that I would recommend to them. The first one is called The Mom Test. Okay. The Mom Test is by a gentleman called Rob Fitzpatrick. Okay. And it tells you how to ask questions about the product that you're trying to sell. The gist of it is when you want to start a business or you want to start a career, do not ask your mom. Read the book and you'll understand where this is coming from. Okay. The second one would be Selling to a Veto. Selling to a Veto is by a gentleman called Anthony Parinello, and Veto stands for Very Important Top Officer. And it shows you how to always add value in every conversation. And it shows you how follow-up calls are worthless. So whenever you have a phone call, whenever you have a conversation with somebody, make sure that you are adding value to their day. If it's not, don't have that conversation. From a sales perspective, understand your business, understand what you are delivering better than anybody else in the world. understand your customer's industry, not their business. Just understand the industry. Be empathetic and listen like your life depends on it, because it does. Understand everything that they're trying to tell you, and then don't try to shove solutions in their face. Try to suggest the solutions that would improve their business, and then make sure you articulate it in the right way. Use AI wherever you can, use technology wherever you can, but always remember, you have to show them what's in it for them. Once they feel you have vested interest in their success, then the sale is made. It's just about a matter of articulating it.
Interesting. That's actually a great takeaway. Amazing. I think that's really something valuable that I'm getting out of this podcast that we are doing with you, Rolf.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Any final words, Rolf?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would call me funny, but it's, look, and when it comes to, when it comes to dealing with people, try to put yourself in their shoes. Try to see things the way they're seeing them. Try to understand their challenges and their inhibitions. If you're honest about not trying to shove something down their throat, they will definitely come back to you. And because you had an honest conversation, people look for honest, and it's been a while since they've seen one. So you be the one. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Rolf, for your time.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.